So, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our next speaker, Tom Vassos. Tom has been a great supporter of the association and of our profession for quite a number of years. He's worked in the technology industry at IBM for 34 years. He's an instructor at the University of Toronto for 30 years, a dozen of those teaching at the Rotman School of Management. In the past few months, he's taught executive MBA classes in Monterrey, Mexico, Shanghai, and most recently in Beijing just a couple of weeks ago. Tom is the author, if that isn't enough, he's the author of the book Destination Innovation. And last night I had the pleasure, myself and a few of us, to have dinner with Tom and learn a few other details that I thought I'd share with you. The first is that Tom has frequently been a guest expert on TV. He's been a guest lecturer at Harvard, and he has, and this is incredible, he has been a keynote speaker in over 43 countries across the world, including China, South Africa, Japan, and Iceland. So please join me in welcoming Tom.
Good morning. She made that travel sound oh so glamorous, but anyone that does that knows all you see is the inside of hotel rooms and ballrooms and things like that. So all I can say is it's great to be here in Montreal today. I think we're going to learn a lot about the mobile transformation. I will share one brief travel story with you to start, since Doug talked to us about the importance of stories. And that's a story when I went to South Africa doing some speaking there. They say, you got to go on a safari. So I went 3 hours north to a place called Sun City, which is this like 6 or 7 star casino hotel in the middle of nowhere. And while we were there, someone said, well, you know, Michael Jackson's staying in the hotel. We said, no way, this is like in the middle of nowhere. Sure enough, about an hour later, out walks Michael Jackson with his entourage through the lobby. We're following him out, taking pictures. They go into the front of the hotel, and he gets in his limo. But the limo doesn't go anywhere, so we figured they're just waiting for someone else or whatever. But anyway, after about 15 minutes, the bodyguards start letting people into his limo to hang out with Michael Jackson. So I got in his limo and hung out and had a nice chat with Michael Jackson. Boy, he talked about that meeting for years. You wouldn't believe it. But the funny ending to that story was everyone kept asking, well, who else was in the limo? Because there were some other people there. I didn't really know who it was. Of course, you're just, well, Michael Jackson, right? And as I was analyzing the pictures of walking through the hotel later, we realized that the other person that was in the limo with us was his wife at the time, Lisa Marie Presley. So I hung out with Michael and Lisa for a while. That's my claim to fame. Okay. So with our session, I have 3 simple hypotheses that I hope to convince you of in the next 50 minutes or so. And that is that we're in the midst of a global mobile revolution, that agile and forward-looking companies are leveraging mobile to achieve business results, and that mobile is transforming marketing, commerce, and business model innovation. And of course, this may not be just a CIO-type agenda, because of course your line of business C-suite executives are interested in doing these things as well. But I hope in the next 50 minutes to take you a bit out of your comfort zone in terms of what the business units are looking for out of mobile, and therefore how CIOs and the IT department might be able to help enable that transformation. So wow, 6 billion phones in the world. 75% of them in third world countries, even though third world countries only have about 25% of the world's GDP. A lot of those, of course, are regular cell phones, but that's growing pretty dramatically on the smartphone side of things, as you might guess. By 2015, there will be 2.5 billion smartphones in the world, growing at 1 billion per year. So the connectivity is there, the way we're accessing the internet is changing, and Gartner suggests that even as early as 2013, web access from mobile devices could surpass PCs. So this transformation is happening very rapidly. And over 1 billion of those cell phone users are in one country, China. It's amazing when you go over there just to see this. In fact, one company alone, China Unicom, has 700 million customers. Imagine having that kind of a customer base. And smartphone adoption has exploded faster than any technology in human history. In fact, global mobile activations actually outnumber childbirths by 3 to 1 right now, okay? And so what does that mean? If you have any children, you better start training them quick because they're going to have to get on board with this thing, okay? Let me ask a question out to the audience. I'm curious how many mobile devices each of you have with you here today or have personally that you use. Raise your hand if you just use one mobile device. Okay, a few people there. Raise your hand if it's 2 mobile devices. Wow, so probably about 80% of the room there. How about 3 devices? I knew it was a geek audience. Wow, that was another 10% or more. How about 4 devices or more? Come on, raise your hand high. You don't want to admit to that, right? So what's happening there is not only are we using one device, but we're using multiple devices. Gartner has coined a term called the always addressable consumer, which is consumers that have 3 or more devices and are always connected all day long. And apparently in the US market, that number is up to 20 or 30% of mobile device users. So it's increasing pretty dramatically. In fact, if you look at the regional breakdown, if you take a look here, you can see the subscription penetration rates by region. There's already several regions, especially Europe, Latin America, and Middle East, that have more mobile subscriptions than the population of those areas. And the interesting statistic on this chart, which I can never keep up to because it's always changing so dramatically, is that the global penetration rate is 91%, which means that there's 91 subscriptions for every 100 people on the planet. And that's interesting, but guess what? In the next 60 days or so, we are going to reach something called the mobile moment, which is the point at which that number reaches 100%, where the number of mobile subscriptions will surpass the population of the planet. And that, by the way, has already happened, as you can see here in North America, where we already surpassed that 100% mark. So hopefully you can see from some of these statistics is that this thing is real, it's growing dramatically, and we need to understand how we're going to harness the power of this mobile area. And a few fun statistics I thought I'd better throw in there, that more people in the world have access to mobile phones than toothbrushes, by about 1 billion or so, just in case you're wondering. And according to the United Nations, more people in India have access to mobile phones than toilets, okay? And of course, on these smartphones, we have access to 1 trillion pages of content, making us all seem kind of smart, right? I thought I would also show you something that really hits the point home, which I call the mobile acceleration effect. Let's go back a few years. Can anyone take a guess at how long you think it might have taken Apple to sell 1 million iPods? Any guesses? This is going back a few years when they first tried to transform the music industry. Okay, it's actually about 360 days, so it took them about a year to sell 1 million iPods. Of course, that's not quick enough, and they were much more successful with follow-on products. It only took them 74 days to sell 1 million iPhones and 28 days to sell 1 million iPads. Of course, that's not quick enough either, so it only took them 2 days to sell 1 million iPad 2s and roughly a day to sell 1 million iPhone 5s. Okay? So this really hits the point home of, once again, how dramatically this is being accepted. So with all of this use in third world countries around the world, could we actually educate the masses and generate economic growth and fight poverty? Well, that might be possible. This gentleman here in India has built a $40 tablet. And with 50% of that potentially being subsidized by the government, they're saying, boy, we could maybe reach 250 million students with this thing, right? So once again, dramatically changing the world. And if those examples were enough, I have one final piece of photographic evidence taken from a satellite, because some people really need to see it visually. And this is evidence of the dramatic transformation that is occurring. And this is God saying to Moses, Moses, meet Steve. He's going to upgrade your tablets. Okay? Tens of billions of apps downloaded. In 2012, 40 billion apps downloaded altogether. According to Gartner, by the end of 2015, there will be 500 billion apps downloaded. So we're doing all kinds of things with this, and yes, you can do just about everything with an app. including controlling your sati toilet if you happen to be in Japan, where you can, via Bluetooth, remotely control your toilet to raise and lower the seat and flush the toilet in case you forgot. And you can also control via Bluetooth the built-in speakers for the perfect music for your visit, okay? And by the way, the Bluetooth feature is great because if you have a friend visiting while they're in that room, just remotely control the bidet feature, okay? And you'll really do well. But for all of the hockey fans in the room, Bauer came up with an app which is great because now if you're watching the hockey game and your favorite team scores, you simply push the on button and you can now set the buzzer alarm as if you were in the stadium to see what it would be like, to get the feel of being right at the game. Of course, that's not good enough, so Budweiser went one step further. They have game-synced red lights and horns that when the goal is scored, the app automatically alarms all of that stuff happening. Of course, that's not quite good enough because the alarm on this wouldn't be very loud, so you wouldn't quite get the feel of being at the hockey game. So they introduced this attachment that you can install in your home and really get the feel of that goal being scored at that hockey game. Okay, so that's the fun stuff. Let's turn a little bit more to the serious side of some past research that has been done, because why does the C-suite care about all this? And I thought I'd share with you a couple of interesting pieces of research. For example, IBM's been doing the C-suite studies for many years now, and over the past decade, they've interviewed in person thousands of CEOs. And so they're asking them questions such as, what are the external factors affecting your organization? And when you pour through the data, you get an interesting trend line here that says technology has gone from being the 6th most important external factor to last year being the #1 most important external factor. So does that not position our sector, CIOs, as really saying, hey, the importance of this is there. Should we not have a seat at the boardroom table? Should we not be reporting to the COO or CFO? I mean, the importance of technology now should, encourage a direct reporting relationship. And once again, just the importance of the role of IT in making this happen, as CEOs have suggested that is that important. One other CEO study chart I thought I would show you as well, which is kind of interesting, which asked, what mechanisms are you using to engage customers both today and in 3 to 5 years from now? And that was real telling because CEOs say that 3 to 5 years from now, social media is going to be the #1 mechanism they see in terms of engaging with their customers. And you can see a slight drop in areas like face-to-face, but a dramatic drop, for example, in the use of traditional media. So we've got quite a change going on here, and CEOs recognizing that this is happening and they need to figure out how to harness it. Another one of your peers, the CMO, I thought I would show you one chart from the CMO study, which also, once again, asks CMOs, out of all of the different elements of your job, what are you most underprepared for? And so they answered with all of these factors, but you can see the top 3, they mentioned they're most unprepared for analytics, social media, and mobility. So dramatic changes that they're having trouble getting their arms around. According to Ginny Rometty, the CEO of IBM, she says there's more digital data being produced every 2 days than the entire amount of digital data in existence prior to 2002. And it's being created every 2 days. So what are we doing with that data? How are we harnessing it? How are we using it to make business decisions? And as you can see from this research, the CMOs saying that they're struggling with that. So you as CIOs, the question of course is how are you going to support the CMO to get a handle on that analytics, to get a handle on the path to take for social media, and finally for mobility, which we're spending most of today on. Also just thought I'd mention that IBM's doing their 2013 C-suite study, which is not just interviewing one C-suite level, but right across the board in terms of the different C-suite levels. And anyone that wants to participate in that, please see me during coffee break, and happy to get you on board with that. By participating, what you'll get is actually a comparison of your answers to your global, Canadian, and industry peers, so you can see how how you fit relative to some of your peers around the world. Wow, the center of gravity for IT is shifting. According to Gartner, by 2015, 35% of enterprise IT for most organizations will be managed outside of the IT department. That lines of business are influencing 80% of IT decisions. And this one's the most far out at the bottom here, that Gartner's saying by 2017, the CMO will actually spend more on IT solutions than the CIO will. Now, that's an interesting one. I don't know if that will happen or which industries it might happen in, but there's an interesting thing happening there that we need to think about in terms of are these other lines of business positioned not just to make that spend, but to make sure it's secure and the proper infrastructure is there and the testing is done properly and all the things that you've been doing for the past 10, 20 years. And so the whole gist of many of those articles is that the CIO, in fact, may be losing control of tech spending as it starts moving out into the line of business. So I would suggest to you that starts to put a case together, because I don't think the lines of business can do it on their own, of really those different C-suite executives working together to make it happen. So for the rest of this session, I'm going to take you through a whole series of examples, and I'm going to kind of do so in this framework that I use in my book that talks about if you're really going to put a solid mobile strategy together, and many of this applies not just in mobile, but in social media and other areas. The first step, potentially, is to understand what your pain point triggers are. What are customers having trouble with? What are you not able to do today for them that you might be able to do better? Address a pain point and get a competitive advantage. The second one is to look at actual mobile technology enablers. So this is one where you would actually take a look at specific technologies that are enabled on mobile devices, and then kind of look back into your organization to say, well, how could that technology allow us to do something different and better and provide a competitive advantage or what have you? The third layer is then looking at different kinds of innovation. Should you be focusing on product and services innovation, or should you be reaching for the holy grail of innovation, of business model innovation? And how can some of these technologies help enable that business model innovation? So I'm going to give you examples across several of those modes of innovation. And then the final one is really, once again, if someone's a CMO in an organization, understanding what part of the sales cycle should we be addressing, because depending on the industry, the product category, the price points will determine whether you should be focusing on just the front-end branding and selling, or you can actually do commerce transactions, or you should just focus on customer support. So all of those things you need to think about in terms of rolling out a strategy. So if you look at this combined strategy, I mean, there is no C-suite executive that can do all this, but I would suggest to you that it's probably the lines of business that best understand the customer pain points and what we should be doing to fix those pain points. I would suggest the IT department is probably the closest to the actual technology and how that can come to life to achieve some things. The third layer, I would say both the IT department, your organizations, as well as the line of business. And then finally, the fourth layer, probably more the CMOs. Okay? So once again, think about how we can come together to achieve the best strategy possible. So here's why mobile computing is different than traditional PC and laptop and desktop type computing. It's all of these sensors and instrumentation that change the rules of the game, that allow us to do something totally different compared to how we did it in a traditional IT environment. And each of these items provides even further enhancements. So for example, things like the camera enable you to read a QR code, which will allow you to play videos and access web content and do a million other things. When you combine the two on the bottom left, GPS for your positioning, as well as the compass in terms of what direction you're pointing in, when you combine those two sensors, you can start building augmented reality, and I'll show you some examples of those. But the key behind any one of these is really determining how can we bring that technology to life to build a true service innovation or product innovation or business model innovation. So a simple example, picture someone a couple of years ago that may have gotten in a bad car accident, that was unconscious from that accident, and maybe trapped inside the car and did not live because they were maybe trapped in that vehicle for days, for example. But now picture service organizations, roadside assistance companies like CIO or whoever, having an app that capitalizes on the accelerometer, that can track the speed of the mobile phone, that can track the fact that, hey, this mobile phone was traveling down the highway at 100 kilometers an hour, and all of a sudden it was going 0 kilometers an hour. All of a sudden, that device knows that car has just been in an accident. That device can then alert the police, an ambulance, loved ones. It can then transmit the GPS location of where that accident occurred, even though that person is unconscious. Okay? And now within 5, 8, or 10 minutes, potentially we find that person and save them rather than that person losing their life. So these capabilities can actually transform how we're delivering our services to the marketplace. So what I'd like to close with in this session is really to take you through a world tour of examples. Over the past 4 years, I've literally combed through hundreds of examples in countries around the world and thought I would share a few of the best ones to really get you thinking about, wow, there's some amazing things that organizations are actually doing to achieve real business results. And as I go through these examples, what you're going to notice is a lot of them tend to be on the business to consumer side because those tend to be the most visible ones. But don't kind of turn off when you see it's a different industry from yours. What I want you to do is do a little bit of lateral thinking. And even though I might be giving you a consumer example, think about how it might apply in your business-to-business environment, for example, or how it might apply in a business-to-employee environment to better enhance how employees are doing their jobs. So with that, let's get into the world tour, looking very specifically at specific business pain points that we potentially can solve using these technologies. So the first one is, how can I improve customer service levels? So some simple examples there. We did the app for Air Canada, the apps for Air Canada, where of course they're doing things like remote check-in, where you get sent, the QR code to allow you to check in and speed up the embarkation process. But one of the more powerful features of the app, of course, is the alerts. So you're at your home, you're about to get in your car and head to the airport, and all of a sudden you get an alert saying, hey, flight's been delayed 4 hours. Because this system is connected to the real-time Air Canada system, so that the second that flight is delayed and they know it's delayed by 4 hours, all 200 people on that flight get an instant text message saying, hey, the flight's been delayed by 4 hours. Now, that's not great news, but it's better news finding it out at home and being able to sit in the comfort of your home rather than where you typically have to wait around, which is at the airport. And the other interesting thing Air Canada did was they really looked at that this isn't just about B2C apps and doing things like this, but this is transforming our internal processes. So they also started introducing B2E employee apps, for example, for the ground crew, to be more efficient in how they're handling the planes as they come in and loading and unloading the bags off the planes, et cetera. So really taking a close look at what could be a much bigger ROI, potentially, of transforming those internal business and employee processes. Here's a neat one on the banking side. We've got some folks in the banking industry here. One of the pain points that banking customers have is the pain of every time you get a check, you have to find a bank branch somewhere, right? And the pain point to banks is they're trying to reduce the number of people coming to bank branches so they don't have to staff up as much and they don't have to buy as much real estate and all that kind of stuff. So what banks have done is they've introduced this mobile remote capture feature. I can take the picture of the front of the check, I take a picture of the back of the check, it instantly gets deposited into my bank account, and now I can rip up the check and I have access to my cash electronically online. And by the way, why this is important is because banks like USAA have a few million customers that are in the military, for example. And they have difficulty reaching bank branches to do things like deposit checks. So this is a great feature addressing a real pain point that banks have started to implement. Another banking example is Citibank Texas launching this thing called Moto Photo Bill Payment Solution, where they are trying to address the pain point of what you have to go through to pay your bills in online banking. So here you get an invoice in the mail, or a paper copy of an invoice in the mail from Consumers Energy. So a utility company, so what do you have to do? A bit of a cumbersome process. You have to go in, you have to set them up as an account that you're going to pay regularly. You have to key in your account number. Then you have to go into the payments section and say how much you want to pay them and when and all that kind of stuff. Well, that takes a lot of time, especially if you've got 10 different utilities and telcos and all that you're paying. So this mobile payment solution here, what it does is it simply allows that user to take that app and take a photo of the bill. It automatically determines that this is the payee, so we got to set up an account for consumers' energy. It automatically knows what the total amount due is. It figures out when the date is due. It figures out what the account number is in, keys all that information in, smoothing the process of you paying those bills. So once again, addressing a pain point that customers are experiencing. This one's one of my favorites. So you've rented a car in Chicago, and you're flying to Chicago. The plane lands. And luckily, you've rented a car from Hertz, and you've got the car information app loaded so that when you arrive in Chicago, you instantly get a text message saying, hey, welcome to Chicago, glad you made it safely. By the way, don't worry about waiting in that long check-in lineup. We've already checked you in. We've got you a nice Honda Accord, and it's in spot 322. Go straight to that parking spot. The keys are in the ignition. You're ready to go. Thanks for shopping with us. So once again, addressing the pain point that people have when they're trying to arrive in the new location. So a powerful example of addressing specific pain points. And then we can even bring it further to life with augmented reality to enhance customer service even further. I noticed we had a few real estate folks in the room, so I thought I'd share a real estate example with you using augmented reality.
Hi, I'm Amanda Day, and today I want to introduce you to HomeSpotter, the new augmented reality platform for real estate brokers from mobile realty apps. With HomeSpotter, you can look through your iPhone or iPad and instantly discover which properties are for sale or have recently sold in your area. As I move the iPad around, you can see where listed properties are at a glance. Use the radar view at the bottom of the screen to determine where properties are in relation to you. Tap on the screen to view more information on properties, like distance from you to the property, price, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and square feet, and more photos.
So you can see from that example that once again, using things like the GPS, the built-in GPS, the compass, it can bring it to life in terms of letting realtors know where those listed properties are. But take that one step further, it wouldn't have to be just for the realtor. Now imagine rolling that out to the buying consumer that's about to buy a house to be able to explore things in different neighborhoods for the perfect home that they're looking for. Can mobile generate service innovations? So once again, using the GPS, TELUS introduced a few years back a kid find service, where once again, GPS tracking of the child so that you know exactly where that child is. Just try getting your teenage kids to turn the GPS on, though. It doesn't always work. Or in the case of insurance companies like Progressive Insurance or Liberty Mutual, giving you a request saying, hey, would you let us enable your car with mobile sensors that would track the time of day you drive, how fast you drive, what parts of town you drive in. Boy, that's releasing a lot of private information. But if you do that, we'll give you a potential insurance, car insurance discount of, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20%. So I don't know. I think I might do that. But some people that speed and drive at 2 or 3 in the morning on a Friday and Saturday night probably wouldn't want to do that, right? But think about it. They're providing a service that you might be getting charged the same as that person that is driving late at night on the weekends. And guess what? If they're out till 2 or 3 in the morning on a Friday and Saturday night, there could be drinking involved and other things that increase the risk. So once again, transforming the business model through telematics-based insurance policies. Here's another pain point common in many industries is reducing lineups for my customers. So here you can now avoid the subway lineup and send your order in via SMS text. You just bypass the 8 or 9 minute lineup to make the sandwich. You go in for 2 or 3 minutes and make your payment and you're out of there. Or hey, let's take it one step further and just let you pay it on the app and now you just go in and pick up the sandwich and show them that you've paid for it. Or this example here, Nordic Choice, where they actually offer front desk lineup bypass So once again, you get off the plane, you get to the hotel with those 20 other people on your flight, you're tired, there's a long lineup, not a problem, because as soon as you walk into the lobby of the hotel, hey, we've already checked you in, thanks very much, go straight to room 249, and at that point, your iPhone will talk to the doorknob to let them know that you're allowed in that room, and now you're in the hotel room. And guess what? The same thing can occur at the back end, that I don't have to line up to check out. I can just head to the airport, and once I'm at the airport, they know to send the maid in and send your final billing via email and all those kind of things, which improve those processes. So there's all kinds of things we can do with some of these built-in technologies. How can mobile strategies be used to sell more? One of my favorite examples, raise your hand if you've ever tried a Krispy Kreme donut. Wow, we've got 80% coverage here. Totally fattening, but wonderful, right? But what they found is that Krispy Kreme has this thing called the Hot Light. And it's something they have on the sign out front of each of their stores, or they put it in the window of the store, that as soon as a fresh batch of donuts comes out, the hot light comes on, and everyone in the plaza says, oh, the hot light's on, and they rush over to get their donuts. Well, guess what? They said, let's go one step further. Let's build an app where we can send people instant messages every time the hot light's on. Now, as you can imagine, if you were starting to get 20 or 30 hot light messages to your smartphone at 10 or 11 at night and all day long, it would get pretty annoying after a while, and you would gain 20 pounds. However, once again, using the instrumentation in the phone, what if I could define only send me those messages if I'm within a 6-block radius of that particular Krispy Kreme location? Only send me the notification between 10 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. I don't want to get them at 10 at night or something. So now we can predefine how people get these notifications, basing the context that they're in, all predefined, all opt-in based on what people have requested to get from Krispy Kreme. What are the business results? 100,000 people have downloaded the app. They're sending out 140,000 hot light notifications per day. And their same-store sales are up 7%, and they attribute a lot of that to some of what they're doing with this Hot Light app. So once again, driving real business results as a direct result of your mobile strategy. How can we integrate mobile with social media? This was coming to you from Israel, the Coca-Cola Village Amusement Park. Let me show you that video.
Bringing the virtual world of Facebook into the real world of the village. Every village guest received a wristband holding an RFID microchip that contained their Facebook username and password. On each village attraction, we attached an RFID microchip capable of collecting the user's data and sending it directly back to Facebook, creating a real-time sharing experience for the guests with their Facebook friends. The teenagers, full of excitement, used the wristband non-stop. In addition, the wristband was also used to auto-tag the teenagers in pictures that were uploaded to Facebook online. The experience moved from the world of Facebook into the real world and returned to the virtual world in full capacity. Like?
The results, with a small park that only holds several hundred people, the kids were doing 35,000 Facebook updates per day, which were then viewed by tens of thousands of their friends about how much fun they were having just coming off that ride at the Coca-Cola Village Amusement Park. So the power of branding and the power of social media to get the word out. Here's another a social media example from Brazil, retailer C&A. They've created these things called digital clothes hangers, real-time updates of information. Any idea what it's updating? It's actually tied to Facebook, and in real time shows the people shopping how many Facebook likes each of these products has received on Facebook. So you can decide on which product to buy based on how many other people have said, wow, that's a really nice leather jacket. So integrating the social media world into the retail stores. How can I innovate using QR codes? So I'm in a wine store, and I've got a bottle of wine in my hand, and you can never find the person in the wine store. But guess what? I can just scan the QR code at the back and instantly get connected to a wine lovers community where other people are talking about that bottle of wine and whether it's a good bottle of wine or not. Or it can show me a 30 or 40-second video of a wine critic saying how wonderful this bottle of wine is, and that it's the best in the under $20 category of red wines from Portugal. So once again, some very powerful interaction methods through QR codes. And we can use these all over the place. I mean, McDonald's in Japan's using them on cheeseburger wrappers. It could tell you things like ingredients in that product, or it could enter you into a contest for a free ice cream shake at the end of your meal or a sundae. A QR code in a pizza ad could direct me via GPS to the nearest pizza location to let me go up and pick up that pizza. Of course, we can put them on our business cards and things like that. But I think the next thing we're going to see is that we're going to do away with fortune cookies in Chinese restaurants. You just scan the QR code and there's your fortune. Or at trade shows, companies are creating QR code tattoos, so you scan it and you can download their product literature or whatever. This is a cool one here. This is the N building in Tokyo, where as you're walking past the building, because you might not even come in, they're giving you the QR code on the entire side of the building. And if you scan that QR code, not only do you see all the retailers that are located in the building, but there's a real-time feed of the tweets coming from inside the building, so you can see things like shoe store, 25% off today, come on in. Okay? So there's the social media connection. And of course, the last QR code you're going to put on your gravestone, where people are going to be able to watch a video of your life. So that's the last one. How can we innovate with commerce strategies? According to Juniper and IDC, mobile payments are going to surpass $1 trillion by 2017. So do you need to latch onto this for your organizations in terms of conducting transactions? Coca-Cola letting you buy a Coca-Cola via sending an SMS text message. Scott's Food and Pharmacy using biometrics, so you simply use your finger to automatically charge your credit card, automatically give you your loyalty points, so you no longer need to have your wallet when you're shopping there. And they found that people are buying more from them because it's the most convenient place to go. They use their thumb or their finger, and they're off with their purchase. I thought I'd share a few other ones that I talk about in the book, because there's just such a wide range of commerce transaction methods that are happening. So from this example, starting from the top right, are things like Square's payment system that can turn any smartphone into an entire payment processing system. Many retailers like JCPenney have announced they're replacing all of their cash registers with actual mobile devices like this in the hands of employees. So the employee has the device, simply goes into the payment app, scans the credit card through the app like so, enters the amount in, tip, if there's a tip involved, things like that. The person then signs with their finger right on the smartphone and requests their receipt either via text message or email to complete an entirely paperless process. So that's one interesting one there. And there's other ones from PayPal, et cetera. RFID tap-and-go transactions. I mean, we've been talking about this in North America for a decade or more, and it's never really happened. But I'll tell you, it's alive and well in countries around the world. When I go to Hong Kong, with my Octopus card, I get on the streetcar, I buy dinner, I buy a beer in the evening, all off the stored value card, either on the Octopus card or now moving to smartphones. Customer self-service transactions. Let the customer do the transaction. Here's another retail example. You can walk into an Apple store, take a product off the shelf, like you want to buy a new case for your iPhone or something like that. You take it off the shelf, you scan the barcode on it, you pay for it on iTunes, and you walk out of the store without ever having to talk to anyone or go to the cash register. So completely self-service, transforming how they're doing commerce transactions, in this case at a retail store. Top left, pay by name. Square has come out with another interesting one called Pay by Name. Now we don't even need credit cards or anything, because once you set up an account with your local coffee shop, now you simply walk into the coffee shop and say, hey, give me 2 double-doubles, and put it on my tab, it's Tom. And they know who Tom is because your smartphone has walked into the coffee shop with you, and they know it's Tom Vassos walked in, and now they can complete that transaction. No credit card needed, no money out of my pocket, no wallet, nothing. In fact, why not take it one step further? Why should I even have to say that? Because once they get the GPS, once they get the information that I'm in the store and walking through the front door, they should be saying, hey, Tom, nice to see you. Do you want 2 double-doubles again? Sure, okay. It's kind of like getting back to the old hometown retail store where everyone knew everyone. It's not quite the same, though, is it? And so let me show you a quick video on the Square payment processing system just to bring that one to life.
My name is Bill Harvey, and we're here at the Farmers Market in Grand Lake in Oakland, and I sell sustainable pork products for a company called Local Living. Before Square, we didn't take credit cards. People would ask if we took credit cards, and we'd have to tell them no. Some people come to the market with a limited amount of cash, and at this particular market, there is no ATM, and so when they find out we take credit cards, they're happy about it. And then when they see that it's a little tiny little machine on my iPhone, they're really happy about it. Since we've started taking credit cards, I would estimate that our business has probably increased by about 25%. My whole thing about doing farmers markets is I like to bring the least amount of things as possible in my van, and the fact that my credit card machine weighs, what, a gram or whatever it weighs, and I put it in my pocket is really nice. When the other vendors see what we have, they're curious, and I've actually seen that other vendors are using Square in this market. I like fast, I like easy, and I like uncomplicated, and Square fits into all those categories.
Okay, and if that wasn't enough, you can now, let's even forget about things like dongles and things like that, because this system from Uber now will simply let you take your credit card and put it on the face of the mobile phone. It reads all the credit card information off of it and actually processes the transaction that way, reading the name off the card and also the expiry date and all the things it's going to need to complete a transaction. So are we moving to a cashless society? I would suggest we're pretty much already there. A lot of people don't realize that in North America, about 91% of transactions are already cashless. In Sweden, it's 97%. So we're well on this way to a cashless utopia around the world. You may have heard a lot of press recently about this thing called Bitcoin, entirely virtual currency called Bitcoins that, based on supply and demand, the price will go up and down, and it's been really fluctuating pretty dramatically. It was up as, each Bitcoin was up as high as $226 or something. Now it's at about $75 per coin. And not government controlled in any way, totally secure, and the biggest difference between the Bitcoin and fiat currencies like the US dollar and Canadian dollar and others is that, well, according to them anyway, that there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins in existence, versus other governments like the US government printing $1 trillion worth of US dollars every year, right? And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in terms of the use of virtual digital currencies like Bitcoin in the future. So can I create an innovative business model? So I mean, the whole Zipcar concept was enabled by the fact that I can actually do away with the rental counter at an airport where you might have 300 or 400 cars in a parking lot. I can spread the zip cars around the city, 2 here, 2 there, 1 there. And the app gives me full access to where the nearest car is. So hey, there's a car available for rent 3 blocks over this way. But it has transformed the business model because A, I don't need the rental counter. I don't need a parking lot with 300 cars at the airport. I can spread them around the city, in many spots even for free, because plazas and shopping malls and city governments want to encourage people not to buy cars, but to rent short-term. And it even changes the business model for how long you can rent for. So not only can you rent the car for a week or a day, as is in a traditional rental car transaction, but how about if I just rent it for 3 hours? Or how about if I just rent it for 20 minutes because I just need to go pick up some milk, bread, and eggs, come back, 20 minutes later, the transaction is done. They can afford to do a 20-minute transaction because of the low cost of doing it in this fashion, versus a traditional rental car company couldn't afford to do a 20-minute rental transaction. But if that's not enough for you, how about this rental car company, GetAround.com? They don't even own any cars. How's that for innovation? So how can you be a rental car company and not own any cars? Well, you just let people rent cars to each other, okay? So in this case, if you go to San Francisco, you can rent this Mini Cooper here for $6 an hour, or you can rent this Tesla Roadster for $50 an hour for a couple hours to take a ride up the coast. And the transaction's all completed in the app, and of course, GetAround.com gets a portion of that transaction fee, and the rest of the money goes to the owner of the car. No parking lots needed. The cars are sitting in that person's driveway or whatever. So once again, transforming the business model even further. There was an article written about a fellow by the name of Neil St. Clair, who he himself has leased a BMW for, let's say, $600 per month. But because he rents his cars through services like these ones that I've just talked about, he basically gets his BMW for free. So he can ride it for the rest of the month for free because the people renting it off him are paying for his lease payments. Or here's another interesting business model, Shazam. This is one that can listen to a song. So you're in a bar and you love the song you just heard. You simply Shazam it. It instantly hears what the song is, and it takes about 5 or 6 seconds to recognize what the song is, who the artist is, and it tells you all that information. So not only is that cool, but to tie it into a new business model, they even say, oh, by the way, and here's the lyrics to that song, because you probably want to sing along. And oh, by the way, give us $2 and you can download the song. You might as well have it on your smartphone, or buy the whole album. Or by the way, we see here that Elton John is in town doing a concert in 2 months. Would you like to buy a concert ticket since you like that song? And once again, so it's transforming the whole business model just based on the fact that I can hear what the song is. But here's my favorite one. Raise your hand if anyone's heard of this Tesco Home Plus example. Okay, only a few of you. Okay. This is a fascinating one. Tesco was trying to launch their mobile innovation to surpass the #1 competitor in the Korean market, but they realized it was going to take them years to build the stores that they were going to need to be the #1 market share vendor. So what they did instead is they built these virtual stores. These aren't real shelves. It's actually a backlit posters that they've actually put in subway stations. This is the subway doors. And so while you're waiting for the subway, you scan the milk, the bread, and the eggs, you complete the transaction and pay for it, and 2 hours later, your groceries are delivered to your home. And they have become the #1 online vendor in the Korean grocery market. So powerful example of business model innovation. Augmented reality. Let me just show you one example of augmented reality. So in this example here, we're talking about virtual merchandising, where I can, once again, as someone like a clothing retailer, could create an entire environment and an app to let customers virtually try on products. So they take the app home on their iPad, and now they can virtually take a look at what these clothes will look like on them. And in this example, if this is the dress she then likes, she can hit another button that instantly posts that dress to Facebook to see how many people like it, and maybe do that with 3 different dresses so she can decide which one to buy. Okay? So very powerful. Okay, the future. I'm going to, since we have a technology crowd in the audience here, I'm going to just take you through a bit of a whirlwind of what the future might hold. Will mobile devices look like this? Kind of weird. Or they might come in totally different form factors depending on what you need. Flexible, thin film smartphones that might fit right inside your wallet. Here's a mobile phone that has a pop-out, whatever you would call this, that gives you a full display of watching movies or videos or something like that. Here's a smartphone that will project a keyboard onto any flat surface to let you use a full keyboard as you're traveling on the road. Or maybe we'll all end up with something like this, I don't know. Or if you're Pranav Mistry at MIT, you can maybe use his Sixth Sense system, where he has a wearable computer that uses gesture recognition so that he can simply hold his hands up like this and take a picture of something. Or he can actually project his phone onto his hand and actually dial a number and phone a friend with his Sixth Sense device. Or if he's in a grocery store trying to buy some toilet paper, his Sixth Sense system can recognize that toilet paper, compare it to some criteria he has specified about what he is looking for in toilet paper, and project right onto the product that there's not enough recycled content in this particular brand, you better put it down and pick up another one. Or what else might these wearable computers look like? You've all seen the Google Glass example. It could be a watch, so a lot of talk about creating something called an iWatch. Maybe that would be easier than carrying around our smartphones. Could be something like a bracelet, or maybe even a Bluetooth-enabled ring. Maybe we're heading into that small. Or in this particular example here, Innovega has actually created compact wearable displays that you wear right on your eye So now maybe we don't need to carry anything around. And if this wasn't enough, here's the final example of the best wearable computer right there that I think we discovered several years ago. But by the way, that's a lot better than this wearable computer, wouldn't you agree? But I think if we get some fashion designers involved, because the Google one isn't quite fashionable enough yet, we might end up with something like this. Okay, that's what I wanted to cover. I hope you will agree that I've proven my case for my hypothesis of being in the midst of a global revolution, that agile organizations are actually achieving business results, and that finally this thing really is transforming marketing, commerce, and business models. And I would suggest to you that not only are we in the midst of a mobile transformation, but I would say we're in the midst of a mobile revolution, if you will. And so I would suggest to you that you shouldn't be missing out. Let's see how we can latch onto this thing. Thank you very much.
I'm Andrew Delane at the CIO Peer Forum in Edmonton. Just finished hearing Tom Vassos speak on mobile transformation. Very energetic, very exciting, fantastic pragmatic examples Tom provided to help us all understand how we can approach innovation, how important technology is to driving innovation, not just from a technology perspective, but from a business model perspective. Anyways, I highly recommend seeing Tom speak if you have an opportunity, and if you can't, then get a copy of his latest book. Thank you. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Kathy Coop, and I'm here at the CIO Association of Canada Peer Forum in Edmonton. I'm a board of director with the CIO Association of Canada. I've been involved with the organization for over 8 years. I just listened to Tom Vassos' keynote on the mobile transformation and found it to be excellent. Tom presented some very compelling case studies and data on in support of the fact that we're in a mobile revolution. And I look forward to reading Tom's book on the destination innovation. I think he shares some very compelling data, and I encourage everyone to read it. Thank you.